After a tale of love, passion, and the riddles of existence, we're all set to enter a session where there are breathtaking spaces between madness, luminosity, and quiet rebellion. In just a few minutes from now, Jerry Pinto, another, of course, columnist, journalist, novelist, but also a poet. And I know there are a lot of you who've been waiting to hear him, and he will be here in a few minutes. But he's a journalist, he's a novelist, he's also a poet. So for those of you who don't know the poet side of Jerry Pinto, I think we need to, we owe one to Bengaluru Poetry Festival. In fact, one of the reviews actually said that as well. To those accustomed to Pinto's wisecracking humor as a journalist, his poems might come as something of a surprise. Leave you to discover that surprise and more. It's over to Jerry.
So I'm going to start with a poem that's called My Poems. My poems are about many things. My poems are about poetry festivals. My poems are written for people like you. My poems take shortcuts. My poems ride slipstreams. My poems take the path of least resistance. My poems are needy. My poems want you to like them. My poems want you to remember them. My poems demand that you should memorize them. My poems want prizes. My poems want to be on syllabi and curricula. My poems want to be translated into Hindi, Marathi, Tamil, Telugu, Gujarati, Sanskrit, German, French, Italian, Poland, Afrikaans, and American. My poems want diplomatic immunity. My poems want visa on arrival. My poems want to be burned in public, but only by men in the right kind of clothes. My poems want exclusion from the canon and recovery by Pound, Eliot, or Rushdie. My poems want to be epigraphs to other poems. My poems want to be photographs of busty blondes with smooth, silky those things. My poems want to challenge virtual reality. My poems are live headlines and even more living bottom lines. My poems want you to sit up and pay attention and pin drop silence or they'll come and get you. My poems are torn from the gut and mined in the amygdala. My poems are dredged from the heart and filed in the sigmoid colon. My poems are seeds planted in your head. They'll sprout when you're dead. My poems are viruses. They self-replicate. They'll do that parthenogenesis thing. My poems are programs. They'll erase your hard disk and implode. My poems are dangerous. They can only be bought by adults who have certificates of illiteracy that make them immune. My poems are wanted by the Interpol. My poems are tracked by the FBI. My poems are protected by Amnesty International. Thank God I am nothing like my poems. In the audience out here, there is Ranjit Hoskote, who, has this wonderful ability to write a poem almost every third day or something like that. He produces poems with the effortless arrogance of someone who knows that he is a poet. I feel on alternate Tuesdays that I might be a poet, and and then that feeling is so tenuous that when I start writing a poem, I often, in the middle of writing a poem, start writing the analysis of why the poem is a bad poem, and I abandon it halfway through. And so I have poems that have lines like, I want to, and then say, oh fuck, why are you even saying this? Can't you say it some other way? I'm actually writing this down because it's really messy inside there. Okay, but there are times when I lie in bed and I'm tired and I'm just completely destroyed by or defeated. My intellect has been defeated, and something suddenly starts to happen, and I start writing what I call night poems, which are just scribble, 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 scratch, and they come from some really dirty, needy place. And this is called I Want a Poem. I want a poem. I want a poem like thick tropical rain, dense green spatter of syllables, drumbeat consonants, fertile with meaning, sudden, short, unforgettable. Afterwards, jungle silence. I want a poem like a Russian circus. You should know it has been trained. No ordinary, everyday poem could leap like that. No quotidian poem could shimmer, spangle, exult like that. Oh, Saturn, yes, yes, and fakery. And then popcorn applause and a lone child with eyes big-eyed, dreaming of running away to the poem. I want a poem like an animal. You should be able to eat it, or domesticate it, or eat it and domesticate it. You should be able to befriend it, or behead it. You could carry it around and make it bear your burdens. You could, should, oh should, you so should clean up after your poem. Afterwards, skeleton poem rides in night terror through ice cream cloud cover. I want a poem. I want a poem. Instead, I get this poem. A poem of clanking wants like a bunch of bhandi bartan going over a waterfall in a barrel. A poem of whispering needs like a tree whose branches scrape plea bargains from the pavement as it is dragged to the bonfire. I want a poem like a chorus of angels, a chamber of horrors, a blockbuster film, a sexcapade with candle wax, an anaconda adventure, a ride in a Batmobile, a Contessa in a fountain. But fuck, all I want is a poem. Just for the change of pace, 2 wanted ads. Wanted. Several brigands to slit the veins in the wrist and neck of a lady on a pilgrimage so that she may be decently declared dead of a heart attack instead of being revealed as cuckolding her husband. Apply to Louis d'Arpajon, Duc de Séverac. Wanted a choir, full-voiced, to sing madrigals as a bastard prince, product of a cuckolding, child of a woman hacked to death with her lover, swings out over a balcony, overlooking a forest that is soon to be destroyed. The choir must be willing to sing for a minimum of 4 days and nights until that spawn of ill virtue dies somewhere between earth and sky. Remuneration fantastical. Women, please excuse. Call Prince Gesualdo d'Avaloche. Someone once said that people return endlessly to the tropes that they start with. And I think for me, one of my tropes is my mother. So I wrote a novel about her, M and the Big Whom, which fictionalized her life and mine. I wrote a poem in Asylum called Bedside, which I have never, ever been able to read out in public, and I won't read out today. But I can read this poem out, and I'll try. Today, my mother is in the audience. Today, my mother is in the audience, as she never was when she lived. Today she sits in the audience and I see her as whole, at her best, a mischievous twinkle in her eye, a twinkle that says, "Cha Baba, don't let these people see your pompous side." She loved the English language, my mother, who knew Burmese until her Goan cousins laughed her into amnesia and gave her the gift of Konkani and Portuguese. In this audience, my mother loves it when you smile, if a smile is called for. She loves it when you clap and laugh. It embarrasses me, that smile, her clear, uninflected enjoyment of any small success I may have. I bear this bravely, this embarrassment, because somewhere in this audience, my mother. If you live in a city house, a flat, a small flat, in a city of small flats, you go through house repairs at some point in time. You know, it's a kind of like you have to keep reminding yourself you have a house. People don't. So if the house is under repairs, just live with it. But it's difficult during that period. And this poem came out of a house repairs moment. Oh, there are poems on the reverse also. Jeez. House repairs. All it took was the flick of a chisel, and the bathroom wall came sighing down. It wasn't quite what we hoped for, but we took it for what it was. One more act in a prolonged dramaturgy of cement. The new wall came up quickly. Overnight, it was back in place. It was all that a new wall should be, or so we hoped. Only the next morning and the next, when sleep clogged, we lurched into it. We found it was our old wall again. The suicide note still scrawled on it. The blood still fresh. We paid the masons anyway and learned something about renovation. This poem is, two of my friends, that is Ranjit, who is here, and Arundhati, Subramaniam, who are kind of like my first readers. They've approved of the poem in the ways that poets approve of poems for each other, which is, you never say, hey, you wrote a great poem. What you say is, this will fit in the next book. Which is kind of a way of saying, it's not the best you've done. It's not the greatest poem you've done, but we can live with it, with you being our friend and having written this poem, which might slightly embarrass us at some times. But hey, if I'm going to ever stop embarrassing myself, I'm probably going to have to stop writing. So I might as well just go for it. This is a poem called Our Trade, and it's to every poet in the audience, all of us together, doing our thing. And it is in the voice of an old poet to a young poet. Our trade. I suppose I could lie. It's easily done, and even that can be forgiven. If the lie is good enough and smooth enough and leavened with a touch of the truth, what's fiction but a lie well told? I could lie, but the truth is, our trade begins in magic. That's all. That's the whole of it. That's all we know about it. Our trade begins in magic. What's the use of saying silence helps? Noise may help too. The call of the cuckoo, I hear thee and rejoice, or the stuttering orisons of, but you know that one. No use framing a law that contradicts itself, even in our trade. I offer you a contradiction instead. All words disrupt silence, but the only ones that echo are born in the silence they destroy. It could be the flaming of a flower at noon, the ancient red unease at the full moon, the startling indeterminacy of dusk, or a lost lover's musk. If you can't remember, go ahead, invent. There are some letters about this somewhere if I can find them. No, so you'll have to do without. I warn you, there's a lot of doing without in our trade. It wasn't always like that. There was a time we were stars. Rock stars? Nothing to us then. They only want to fuck rock stars. Us they wanted to swallow whole. Such was the yearning. Eyes round and full. They listened to us because it was not a story we told. But flesh we put on their bones. We turned them round and showed them who they could be and who they were. We were memory, we were history, we were ritual, we were community. We held the secrets, we told their lies. We were monstrance, we were scroll. We were labyrinth, we were sanctum. We were spire, we were libation. We were all they needed. And when the moon was full and silver, as the coins they dropped in our bowls, we invented their world. Do you know what I'm saying? We invented them. We're still at it. We're still inventing. Only this reinvention business is a bit crowded these days. Our hieroglyphs aren't profane enough. Our ancientness is not new enough. Our black and white is blurry gray. Don't go there. Don't even try. What is real is this. You, me. And between us, not even enough money for a cutting chai and a cigarette. Don't smoke, you'll find your wives. Only, don't let it be words. Words, 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 he said 400 years ago, even before the pocketbook revolution. What do you think he'd say now, as the words pour thick, sludgy, militant, flooding out of every profligate mouth that pretends to be a poet? Words, words, words. He'd be breaking his own laws, right? I'm breaking mine, see? And so, that's what we do. We break their laws, which is why we sit alone on this lonely, arid plateau called language, and we drop our turd words, word turds, turd turds, word words, and fertilize the soil for them to follow, for the bankers and the milliners and the armies, for the sandpaper tongues that buff our jagged edges. And at the end, there are no guarantees. The jungles outlive us, our lines die with us, the worst shall be first, and the bile with which we sought to cure the world turns toxic in our throats. So I have a word of advice for you. Run! Nothing. Oh, okay. Do you want to take a break? You want to ask a question? You want to say something? You want to say shut up? Bring back Gulzar? Anything you want? Yeah? No? Okay, thank you. Okay, thank you. That's a vote. Yeah. Okay, self-revelation time. This is called, okay, what's the point of saying self-revelation time and then saying anything more? This is called inside. Okay? Inside, I'm a slattern. Inside, there's dust motes in every eye, and every eye a wound, and every wound a metaphor, and in each metaphor a wealth of meaning. Inside me, Miss Havisham meets Salim Sinai. They fall in love and run 7 times around the island and mistake it for marriage. Inside, I'm a convict, and I've locked up some devices and desires, like memory who has a gold key, a silver key, a lead key. You get to choose, and you get your speech time. Oh dear, oh dear, oh dear. It's always the wrong key, and your balls go, so you will sing a higher octave, even if it's in the same key. And there's a rage. There's a rage in a vial that never seems to be quite dry, like the bull pee that the dasturs spray over. Like vials of blood that liquefy for feasts and priests, and desire like a ring to be slipped through the nose of the double bull so that it can be taken to the market. Inside I'm a bird and I have wings, naturally, wings. My bones are light and my nest contains broken stories that I must feed every hour, and I can soar and plummet and I can shit where I want. I'm a bird. That's the only reason to be a bird. You can shit where you want. Really. Inside, I'm an estate. I have not been admitted to probate. I am actually of such immense value that I have no value at all. Or I might be valueless, but no bean counter has been assigned to study my worth. But I would be unable to reveal what I am to the eyes of someone like that. Inside me, I'm a lake, still, cold, dream-struck. And anyone who comes here can slake her thirst. Only no one comes here. I'm a water park, a salt water park. Inside me, I like it here. I wish I could stay. I wish you were here. This is also part of the performance. I mean, I leave everything here. I know exactly what I'm going to read, but I pretend that I'm like finding it. The gentleman came here and said 10 minutes are left. So that's like, if you want to ask a question. Yeah? Yeah? Okay, great. Let's just, okay. Blast. My big number poem I can't find. Sorry. Okay, two poems, last ones, I promise. This one is called The Teeth of a Movie Star. I was born at a time when if your parent, your mother had something like a fever and they thought it was German measles and they gave lots of antibiotics, so my teeth tend to be the color of like cement on a good day. On a bad day, they're the color of cement with fungus on it. So one of the things that you work again, I've always wanted the teeth of a movie star. I want to spend just 1 decade with the teeth of a movie star. This is a metaphor. I want now to care about surface. And since surface has no place for the depthiness and then the interioritation of metaphor, I want to spend 1 decade looking like a movie star. This is a simile I am thinking. So I start again. I want to spend 1 decade of my life, my own life, with my consciousness, as a movie star who doesn't have to make movies. I want to flash and shine and slide and chick-tick. I don't know what chick-tick is, but it sounds like when I'm doing it, I will know what I want to do, and it will be a good thing to do. I want to raise champagne flutes and warm balloons, brandy in my palms, and I want to moon the paparazzi. I want to consume recklessly. I want more than my fair share of the world's time and money and energy and space and beauty. I want. Now in the dentist's waiting room, with a bleeding stump where my molar was, I am so far from this dream that I can dream it with no guilt, no pain, no me. This is, to all you wonderful people, functions of an audience discerned after a long apprenticeship as a member thereof at various cultural events. These are your functions, dear audience. To clap with energy. Is that the best you can do? To clap with energy. To laugh without irony. To make eye contact. To be there at the beginning. To be alive at the end. To leave. To take with you the debris of yourself. To go. To disappear. Now.
Jerry Pinto, you really ask much. But we did our best, and we bore with your longing for that star teeth, and also the house repairs, and man, lines like we've never heard before. Let's hear it for Jerry Pinto. I hope that was our best and it pleased you, Jerry. But truly, what a treat it was. And for all the Jerry fans who came pretty much at the beginning, and I promise you much before Gulzar Sahab's session was, surely worth it. Just an announcement for those of you who really want to follow him. He is going to be there at the signing if you want to pick up your books and do that.